My life is a miracle. Every child has a story of God's love to share. Shalom World, tune into God's love story.
We have a lot of conversations about our backgrounds and what your family was like, what my family was like, what it's like when you were a kid, or what it's like when I was a kid, right? You remember all these stories?
Yes. Our kids ask us all the time.
Yeah, kids have a tendency to ask questions that you're just sometimes not ready to answer. Like, what was it like and what were you doing when you were a child?
They want to know what it was like in the olden days when we were kids. The olden days.
Exactly.
Yes. Like they want to know if pictures were in color. But it's not just the olden days that they're interested in. They're interested in the family that formed us, the family that made us who we are today.
They're probably looking at us and saying, where did you get that, those things you say from? Where did you get that, the way you respond to things whenever you're arguing or excited or emotional? Where do you learn those things? Well, that topic is called family of origin. It's what's going to be taken up in the episode and the couples that you'll be hearing from shortly. But this topic of family of origin is huge. It's not something to just really look over. It's not just a psychological thing. It's not something that's really even just meant to be negative or overly critical. But it really is a deeper look into who we are and what were those fundamental, foundational parts to our relationship that allows us to connect with others, primarily our spouse, but how we're responding to our children and just extended family.
And so many times we hear the term family of origin, and I don't know why. I'm like, ooh, that seems like a negative thing, and it's always the thing that I think couples struggle with the most. It's the family that formed you, the family you grew up in, the way you learn to connect, the way you learn to celebrate, the way that you carry on your heritage. It's all part of that family of origin, and so for us, it's a balance of what are the things we don't want to bring into our new life together? And what are the things that we do? What are the things we want to learn from? What are the things we want to celebrate? What are the things we want to pass on to our children? And to really have those conversations, unpack it, explore it, and let our kids really understand who we are, who their grandparents are, who their aunts and uncles are. None of us just kind of appear in a vacuum. We are all part of a family. We all have a heritage. We all have a story. And it's worth celebrating. It's worth discussing. It's worth learning from. So we look forward to welcoming these four couples to unpack that conversation with you today. It's going to be fun.
Yes, it will. Stay tuned.
It is both a blessing and at the same time a challenge.
What is my family situation going to look like? Like what traditions can we come up with?
Sometimes we miss or lose the sense of the family as a unit and as a community.
It was definitely the start of our relationship. Bringing in our past and our struggles and who we are. That's kind of what started our relationship.
We both came from broken families.
Understanding the fragility of the family.
So there were expectations about community, what yours is mine and what's mine is yours type of thing. And so kind of the boundaries were blurred.
Know how to come together and know how to just enjoy each other.
I love being with people. So I mean, it's not that it's hard. It's just that I guess you can't always make everybody happy.
I think the biggest thing is just a sense of community and always doing stuff together.
We're really grateful to have Deacon Juan and Veronica Pagan here with us today, just good friends that we've been knowing for a while, and for us to share some insights and some of their story about being married now 22 years, having 4 children, raising teenagers right now, right? And they just have a beautiful testimony and witness to share. So welcome to this program, Deacon Juan and Veronica. Great to have you with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
We're so excited to really learn from you in some ways, and just really the beautiful mentoring spirit and witness that you have, just in your marriage and in your friendships. And one of the questions that we would love to get your insight on is really a family of origin question. Like how did the families that you came from kind of impact your marriage, and just what insights or stories do you have to share?
Well, you can say that we are an intercultural marriage. I'm originally from Puerto Rico, and she's a Cajun from Louisiana. So we say that our family is a Cajun Rican family. And it was kind of funny as we began to learn from each other's families and the differences in relating. Veronica's a little more formal and more quiet, and my family being wild and kind of like whenever we went to see that movie, my big Greek fat wedding, it was like a revelation for her. That's your family. That is your family. Which is it is both a blessing and at the same time a challenge.
His family was a little bigger than mine, so I had to learn how more siblings works versus just we were I was one of 3, and we just had different ways of going about things.
What did I bring into marriage from my family of origin? I think the biggest thing is just a sense of community and always doing stuff together. I'm one of 17 grandchildren, and my dad's one of 5, and we grew up going to Sunday dinner every Sunday with all of our cousins, all of our family, and that unity, that togetherness, I just expected everyone else to have it. And that's one big joy that I bring, because I'm always wanting to do stuff with our family. I'm always wanting to include everyone that we can. And on the other side, it's kind of hard because now I'm part of a larger family. So we're having to figure out how to balance that time, and she's amazing at it. I don't know how she does it.
How do you do it?
I like to give. I love being with people. So it's not that it's hard. It's just that I guess you can't always make everybody happy.
It's really important to take a moment to just look back and kind of recognize where we're from, because first and foremost, the family was kind of our place of formation, right? So as you look back on your family of origin, as it's called, how would you say that that experience helped you to maybe get to this point that you're at in your life?
Well, that's a good question, Ryan. I think that for me, like in my own family, I know that we definitely, like whenever I was growing up as a kid, we would go to Mass on the weekends. And I was very exposed to I'd go to catechism and those types of things. And from an early age, I really had a love for prayer. And my family, we didn't pray the rosary all the time or, didn't say grace before meals, but they still allowed me to just kind of blossom in my faith and just supported me through that. So I think they just kind of accepted me and accepted my faith, and that really, I guess, helped me to just kind of be true to who I was. So, yeah.
I grew up in Mexico, and our cultures, the father is always working far away, and I grew with my mom. Beautiful mom, she's always taking care of me, and she about the faith. So the way that she lives, she told me how to search the faith. So when it was my turn to come to the United States, like a man and Mexican man, so it was to save those teaching that my mom had. I don't want a family. Definitely, I don't want a family part. You know, I don't want to be far away from my family, and just I don't want to repeat the same thing that my culture or my family did. So.
I think that the main difference between our families of origins was Glenn came from a farm family with deep roots. My family I grew up moving around the United States, so I never had one place that I could call home. So I never had that extended family. So when we were joined, that there was this expectation that came with having extended family around, which was hard for me to get. I was used to being more autonomous. And so we had to work on that, expectations like just having babies, and his family had this tradition of coming into the labor room and everybody's camped out while you're giving birth. And with our first child, I had to say, please get them out of here.
That sounds familiar. That sounds very familiar. Exactly. No, but I think looking back, maybe in our marriage, is that really a big deal? And I think, I guess it was, right?
Expectations. And then we lived on the family farm for quite a long time. And so there were expectations about community, what yours is mine and what's mine is yours type of thing. And so kind of the boundaries were blurred. So they would come over, borrow things. Glenn would go over, borrow things, where for me, that was like, I just kind of needed to know where my things were and
where your domain was.
Where my domain was. So working through those kind of things.
Was it hard to I don't know, to talk about that? Because you probably want a level of respect, but at the same time, you probably just need to get some of that stuff off your chest, right?
Yeah, we did have a lot of working it out, because living there on the farm, it's probably one of the main reasons we moved, was because of that that issue.
We both came from broken families. Both our parents were divorced. Even though in my case, my parents were able to work it out, and after 4 years of being divorced, they were able to reconcile and come back together. As a matter of fact, the year that my dad died, they were going to celebrate their 50th anniversary. It's a great testimony for me to see the work of God in two broken people, and how they were able to heal that brokenness in their marriage. Yeah.
That point about coming from both divorce backgrounds is something that is unfortunately just very common today all over the globe. We love your family. I love kind of watching, seeing you and your children. Did you ever have a specific conversation about what the vision for your family would be? Was that something you ever really discussed or articulated, coming from your background and maybe what God was doing in your life? Could you ever say, like, this is what we wanted to show to our children?
Yeah. Well, we knew we needed to work well, because things were not really in our favor, because we both came from these divorce situations. So we knew that we needed to maybe work a little harder than other couples who came from,
One thing, and both of us, we came into our marriage very well aware of our frailty. We didn't come in with this victorious attitude, we're gonna make it. It was more like, God, if you give us the grace, we can do this, And even the whole determination to stick it out and be together. I think of how Peter vowed to give his life for Jesus, and the next day he denied him, And so this commitment to stay together is nothing. It cannot be natural, because we can easily break it. And so in that awareness of our frailty, is that we feel that the Lord comes in and His grace to give us the power to be to be faithful and to be able to handle some of our challenges that would come as part of our family of origin, and be able to be faithful to him and to one another. And Peter ended up dying for him when he actually recognized that he couldn't do it and that he was empowered by the Holy Spirit to be faithful.
The importance of, because for me and my family too, whenever I was growing up, we did a lot together. But as I got older, we didn't do as much together, and people kind of go their own ways. So, for the holidays, it might just be, you do this at your house, you do this at, and I desire to have that togetherness. And I think for us, that's important to have the togetherness, but also to have the time. Even I think, we have kind of spoken about, I guess, just how busy life can be, but how important the family unit is. So you want to have the quality time with your family to really form and shape it well. Whenever, it's like almost in the world, it's like work, and be productive, but it's so important to really take the time for your own family. And I think we both desire that.
Eventually we'll get to conversations about how you guys are coping, not coping is the right word, but just the reality of in-laws and those types of things. But when it comes to, so say, family of origin, which does have sometimes a negative tone, it's more about an honest conversation about how relationships have played a role in your history, in your life before, you met each other, particularly your own family. What was that experience like as you look back maybe on your childhood or so? And did you feel confidence or a little bit of anxiety or concern? Like, what was that entering into this new relationship and creating this new family?
It was definitely the start of our relationship. Bringing in our past and our struggles and who we are. That's kind of what started our relationship. That's where
we connected.
We connected, yeah. I first shared, and then years later, you shared, and it just...
As a result of his sharing things in his family and his life that were actually difficult for him, allowed me later in life when I needed someone to be like, okay, I know I can talk to Matt because Matt was there for me. So that was something beautiful that because of the way that things happened with family origin, we were able to connect on a deeper level.
One thing to also consider about family of origin, we tend to associate it with challenge, but actually there's a lot of positive things. My mom was very religious, and she was really who planted the seed and of faith in me, and I grew with a strong faith because of her. Her dad too, and so those are very strong. Positive things that we take from our family of origin.
That was a bonus. His mom and my dad gave me my faith. He was very instrumental in teaching us the prayers and the family rosary, and so I'm very thankful for that example. So between my dad and his mom, they gave us a good foundation. To have a prayerful family.
The good part of family of origin, both of our parents, my parents were married until both died, and Cindy's parents are still married. So just that, for us, that marriage is permanent, I think that was just by
and
example.
Their
faithfulness, right.
Faithfulness.
What I learned was, so because Samuel and I are from two different cultures, this is what was really beautiful for me to kind of be immersed more in his culture, was just their love for the family. I think in the American culture, it's not, not to say anything bad, but I feel like sometimes we miss or lose the sense of the family as a unit and as a community. And I remember before we were dating, Samuel had invited me over to something called Pastoral Familiar, something like that, which is where groups of families would come together and they would do a teaching or pray, whatever. And that was really inspiring to me because they just really I feel like know how to come together and know how to just like enjoy each other, which is really what family is about, you know?
A common topic of conversation in marriage preparation, as well as in marriage counseling and in discussion between couples, is family of origin. This is a relatively new term, but where did my skills and my idea of marriage come from? And what are some of the dynamics about my emotional responses to stimuli based upon how I grew up, and I learned these things growing up. Children imitate adults. They're supposed to. That's how they learn. And so as I grew up, I learned from parents. And so a husband and wife growing up, they learn from their parents, and they learn from how to cope. They learn mechanisms, how to shut down, or how to relate to one another based upon what they experienced for many, many years in their family of origin. And so mental illness, emotional struggles, these all come to bear on the persons when they're trying to build a new home together and a relationship. So it's very important to consider. Some people think about just these negative things, but family of origin has a tremendous amount to do with regard to God using all things, even bad things, stitching them together and passing through God's hands, transforming them to create something new and something better. And so we're supposed to be progressing. The church is progressing in her consciousness of Christ, and the church is progressing in her holiness down the centuries, and family life should be progressing to become more and more a very radiant example of the love of Christ for his body, the church. And so family of origin has a lot to do with that. Sometimes the couples come to me and I can see that they're learning traditions that they got from the wife or the wife's family, that they were accustomed to certain things and they're bringing that into the family with great effect. It was something to be open to these new pieces of the puzzle that come from one of the members in the relationship. And the same thing is true with regard to the faith. It's not uncommon. In fact, I just did a marriage recently and dealing with a couple that one was very, very Catholic and had a deep prayer life, sacramental life. And the other couple, it wasn't that the young man was not very devout. It was that he didn't have it in his family of origin, didn't have the faith presented, and yet very desirous. And so one of the beautiful things, I'm seeing this young man in marriage preparation growing because the family of the origin of his wife was very devout, and he was learning and going by leaps and bounds. And so the marriage and the relationship is being deepened by this positive element that he lacked in his own family of origin. This has to be spoken about and understood so that when they're coming together, they realize this is going to be a struggle. And we're going to pray, and God would not be drawing us together without giving us the grace to get through these things. And so we're going to use this to be able to build even a better marriage than our parents had. That's the idea. We're going forward, not backwards.
For each of us, the family of origin, the family that we came from, the family that helped make us the person that we are, that family is really the creator of the fabric that we bring to marriage, that we bring to our new family. And when you're making a quilt or when you're putting two different kinds of fabric together, you have to understand the fabric that you're working with so that you can put the pieces together in a way that will last.
These are very important conversations that Mary-Rose and I have had in our own life many, many times.
They're ongoing.
Before we met, after we met, in the past 12 years. And it's this part of our DNA. It's a part of who we are. It's remember, we're body, mind, and soul, and that we're complex, and we're made up of all these bits and pieces in our whole life. But thank God, in a new life in Christ, in marriage, the future is always very hopeful. So it's really important that these honest conversations take place.
And to always remember that God can make all things new, that He desires each and every day to make all things new. So to look at your past and just really try to prayerfully discern what do you want to bring into the future so that when your children and your children's children are looking at their family of origin, that they have a strong, beautiful cloth to build their new life from.
use media a lot in evangelization, so I believe in the importance of Catholic radio, Catholic TV, Catholics using the new media. Can I encourage everyone to watch Shalom TV? I think it's a great vehicle of evangelization. And God bless all of you.